All right. Well, thank you to the committee members and to the audience members who are joining us tonight. Um, I want to quickly do the roll call and then I can go over the agenda. Um, so while we have everyone, I want to start the meeting at 7:02 p.m. Um, Nakapon, are you here? Great. And Leah Trebet, are you here?
Yes.
Great. And Clara Considine, are you here?
Yes, sir.
And Karen Gall, are you here?
I'm present.
And Elaine Jin, are you here? Right. No Elaine. But we've got everybody else, so that's pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, and Brandon McLean. Hmm. He said he might have to join late today because uh, he had a meeting with the DC Department of Veterans Affairs, because that's related to his work. So hopefully he'll be able to join us around 7:30. But real quick to go over the agenda, we actually have a guest speaker tonight who confirmed because I reached out last minute regarding our discussion about the federal takeover of DC and the deployment of the National Guard. So I'm really happy that Jessica Kahanik can join us, who is Cleveland Elementary School's PTO co-president, and she's just going to speak to what she's been seeing and hearing in the community. And folks are welcome to ask questions, but I'm really curious to hear, what is happening at the school because it sounds like there are a lot of parents and families who are really scared right now. Um, then we'll launch into just a more extended discussion about the federal takeover. It's really an open forum. I'm very curious what folks have been seeing and hearing in the community, what they think about, the mayor's approach so far, and, then going over, well, what can the ANC do? There's a few other topics there that I want to discuss. Then, we have MPD on as well, which I'm really grateful for. Captain Murphy, it appears, is on, though we never know who might be behind that Zoom. And so we can get some crime updates. I wanted to discuss, youth again in terms of, late night hype. Is that something we should advocate for on U Street to engage youth, sort of late night youth engagement programming? And then also, I want to hear folks' thoughts on the curfew and whether they think it's working or not so far. And then a quick discussion about, U Street and DDOT and using crossing guards to help control the traffic situation, which the head of DDOT seemed receptive towards when I mentioned it to her. And then finally, any community announcements. So because Jessica has volunteered her time and she's dealing with her young children as well this evening, I'm going to promote her to be a panelist, and then we should be ready to go. Hello. Are you able to, do you have the
Yeah,
ability? Yeah.
sorry,
Okay.
it was just taking a minute.
No,
Hi
no
there.
worries.
Hi there. So as Francois mentioned, I'm Jessica Kahanik, and serve on Cleveland's PTO. Wanted to give y'all just kind of a quick update. I know we've had discussions in the past about the situation on T Street, and we all are very familiar with that situation. But to give people that are unaware a little background on Cleveland, we are a bilingual school that serves a significant new arrival population, and we take pride, and our teachers take great pride on providing quality education to students regardless of their background. But in part because of our the makeup of our school, similar to other bilingual schools across the city, we have a lot of families that are absolutely terrified. We had at least one student who's had an uncle detained and deported. We have another who has withdrawn because their father was deported or was detained. And we have had, numerous conversations with families about ways to ensure safe passage to school, whether they have status or not. Because what we're seeing right now, it doesn't matter what your status is if you're Hispanic at this time. And so this is a conversation that's been really, really daunting and kind of the forefront of how the back to school has unfolded. I do want to note that despite this and a lot of the work the school has been doing to try and assure families, our attendance is actually up compared to last year. So it is not all terrible things and terrible news. The school's teachers and faculty have been going above and beyond to try and make students feel safe. At the same time, we have students that have been out on the playground crying when they see MPD come by. We have families that are concerned about, the situation that has unfolded on T Street for many long time in terms of drug use, and choosing what's the worst situation, letting that continue or risking interactions with the police right now that they do not trust. From my conversations, I think trust, not just with the federal law enforcement, but with MPD, is fundamentally broken within our school. This week, we also saw the camera that had been located on T Street disappear without notice. So that deterrent effect that camera had, we anticipate is going to mean that we're going to have a lot more drug usage happening on T Street, which is what happens every time that camera disappears. So our students and our faculty are really thinking through what is the hard choice of what is the best bad option that we're going to be facing moving forward. And I don't expect everyone here to have a solution for these things. This is just an update on kind of the general dynamics that we're seeing. And if this federal takeover was actually about making the city safer and reducing crime, I think we'd be seeing some very different activity and an actual decline in some open usage and open drug sales that we're seeing that are flooding the alley between 8th and 9th Street, right by our school between T and S. I live on that block, and we have honestly seen the same, if not more, in the most recent weeks. So that's sort of the pulse from our block of 8th Street. And, despite it, we're doing our best as a school community to try and support our families, but I don't know how we get back to good in our relationship right now with law enforcement for a lot of our families. And that's just unfortunately the reality. So happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of the top lines.
Thanks so much. Yeah, that's really helpful insight into what's going on and what people are feeling. Anyone's welcome to speak, ask questions. Have at it, Claire.
Hey, thanks for coming on. So I live at 7th and T, and I was able to see that camera from outside my window. You are my neighbor, and you work right there. Do you want the camera back? That's my question.
Yeah, I sorry, I was trying to get off mute. I can speak for the school. The camera, they felt particularly pointed towards the playground, which is always been kind of our most vulnerable exposure point. They found it to be helpful with a deterrent effect. Now, as someone who lives on these blocks, I think what it does is it ultimately pushes activity beyond the line of sight. And while I don't want that to happen in my alley, if I have to pick a priority, I don't want it happening outside of the school playground first. So that's sort of the balance between the school perspective and a personal perspective there of, it was helpful.
I got it. Yeah, if it's the school or your home, if it were the school or my home, I would pick the school too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, maybe we can advocate for getting the damn camera back. Where did it go?
Yesterday morning, I think, is when it was moved.
Well, no, when you said that, I don't know if you saw, I went off camera, poked my head out my window. I was like, where'd it go? Wait, it's gone?
Yeah. Yesterday morning, it went away.
So I would love to know from MPD where my camera's gone. Our camera, the camera.
Yep.
Ms. Gall.
This is obviously, I'm trying to not wear my dual hats in this, or scarf, or in this particular meeting, but I was the person that was responsible for making sure, under my purview as the 3D CAC chairwoman, to make sure that camera was placed there. And because it was placed there with conversations with Cleveland Elementary, and I actually wanted to have a permanent camera in place. Um, Unfortunately, our past commander did not advocate as hard as I wanted him to do to get that camera to be permanently there because of the consistent activity that was at Cleveland Elementary School. I'm going to continuously stay on top of advocating for a permanent camera that is there so that that trolley camera, which is moved to various locations based on the data of crime activity that's in that area. It's We have only two movable cameras like that in the area. And if we have a high amount of crime in the particular third district, we have to move it. So there may have been a uptick. Well, I'm not going to say may have. There was an uptick that made the movement of that camera happen. But here's and I wanted to sort of save it for the end of our meeting because on September the 26th, which would sort of help address basically all the topics that we are discussing for this evening's meeting. We are going to have Judge Janine Pirro as
Oh,
our guest for our community forum, which she, the commander, and myself will be discussing all of the issues that we're talking now for this topics. And I want every one of you all to show up and bring all of your questions that I know that you all have that are going to be robust and vibrant, and so that we can address everything directly with Judge Janine Pirro. Um, Jessica, I've invited you a numerous amount of times to the meeting so that you all can have that discussion. I've been working with Damien at Cleveland, and I also had the opportunity to do the welcome back to school.
Yeah, I saw you there.
I was the lone, y'all saw me as
Yeah.
the lone member of the community doing that, and I welcomed every one of y'all. I was happy to do it. It was an exciting time. And like you said, I had conversations similar to what you're saying. And you felt the tension. Is You could feel it. And as much in the community, the Cleveland Elementary School is one of the love gems of our neighborhood. And there is absolutely no reason why anyone should be feeling the way that they're feeling, because these are our community members. And so I really want you all to bring these passionate points of views to the community discussion on September the 26th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to start early because we know that we're going to have a lot of people come into the meeting. We're going to have a different community seating. It's not going to be the comfortable seating we normally have. We're going to have a lot of chairs, and we want everyone to come in to join us to just voice how you feel about the community going through this situation directly from the source of this setup. So I welcome you all, and I wanted to save that for the end, Francois, as you know I normally do, but
yeah, yeah.
apparently
So it's good to put
it's
it at the top.
pertinent, right? It's
Yeah.
pertinent to bring that up now. So I thank you all, and Jessica, as always, I'm looking forward to seeing you and all of Cleveland Elementary School parents that is willing to come to that meeting to voice how you all feel. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
Karen, I will say, I can tell you that a number, if not majority of the families will have a lot of hesitations about being at that meeting, given Puro and trying not to put our school further in the headlines or in
Yeah.
the crosshairs here. So would love to maybe make sure you and Damian can connect offline to make sure we're not creating additional risk as we're trying to advocate for
No,
what our
and
families need. So that just need to raise that right now. That
oh,
it's
well,
a balance that we're very, very concerned about.
you're right, Jessica, and that's the reason why one of the things that I'm conscious of that, what I want to do, I mean, you can keep the questions benign enough that you don't target, and I don't want to bring anything into to target that. um, that school. I did not even when I even said that I was there, I didn't specify the school and all that because I really did not want anyone honing in on that school because it's a special school to us. And then there's another thing too. I do want the questions. You can send the questions via email, and if anybody has ever attended, and we also have Zoom registration for a hybrid opportunity. If anybody has ever attended any of our meetings, you guys know the questions will be asked, right, Francois? There is
Hmm.
not one question that would be omitted. So please put your questions, send me your questions, and then also make sure you register via Zoom, so that you all can make sure that if you want to attend, that we give those options as well. So I'm very happy to see you all. Um, Whatever contribution you can make. Thank you very much.
Leah, feel free to go ahead. Nope, you're muted.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for popping in. I live up the street and I know Damian and some other teachers at Cleveland. And I used to be a teacher, so I know kind of a lot of what I'm sure a lot of your teachers are feeling right now. And I'm wondering if there's anything the community or anything that the families might need in order to support. I've been down a few times to just help with arrival and with dismissal. I'm not sure if that's needed at this time or if there's something else more
Yeah.
tangible that families might need.
Yeah, I think that Damian is by far the best resource for the evolving needs that we have right now. We do have a number of volunteers that have been helping with arrival and dismissal and just, safe passage, but a lot of that's been sort of done one-on-one ad hoc basis. So I don't want to make like a sweeping statement here. But I'm happy to drop Damian's email in the chat for anyone that wants to get involved and try and find ways to be helpful from the community perspective. But I think the best outlet is really to reach out to him on what the evolving needs are.
I'm curious, Jessica, I don't know if you know this or not, but have there been specific raids or incidents that have been discussed that happened at Cleveland or around Cleveland?
We have not had been targeted yet.
Okay.
There have been incidents and detentions nearby,
Mhm.
up by the compass where a lot of the Grubhub sort of scooter drivers
Mhm.
station themselves. There's been some issues there. I know they have tried to get into cracked eggery numerous times, and I know that we have had some near like Howard Hospital. So it's been close by. We've had cars circling at pickup and drop off and things like that. So I think we are treating it as more of a matter of when, not if. But to date, we have not had anyone try to gain access to the building.
Got it. I appreciate that update. All right, well, unless anybody else has any other questions for Jessica, happy to let you go. Thank you so much again for joining us. This is definitely a really challenging time for our community. So I really appreciate you coming to speak to the committee because I think it's important for us to talk about, what exactly we're hearing, what people are feeling, um, because I think that there's a lot of information and videos and other things circulating right now, and it's sort of, very unclear what's happening on the ground. So really appreciate your time.
Happy to do it and really appreciate the time. I'm going to send or put Damian's email in the chat for anyone that is trying to figure out ways they can be helpful surrounding the school. So thanks, Sean.
That'd be great. Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of community members would love to help. People are really reaching out a lot to the ANC and other channels to see what they can do. All right, well, I want to take a brief break actually, and I think we should. Well, I think actually it would be good to just keep the discussion going, and then we can come back to crime updates after. Um, But I am curious, what else have folks been seeing or hearing in the community with respect to federal law enforcement, the federal takeover, the National Guard? There's so much going on right now. But I am really curious, are there other issues that are cropping up for folks that they're hearing about?
mean, I could tell you personal things that are happening that
Mhm.
I'm seeing. Again, I live
Yeah. Yeah,
in
please.
Virginia. I travel into DC pretty often for work, obviously, right there on 14th in Florida. So I'd say, first day we had somebody arrested on our staff. Um, I mean, it was surprising to us because we wouldn't think he would break the law, but I guess I'll just share with you so you can see like, some certain situations, right? So hopefully it doesn't reflect badly on our school. We did not know that this was the case until it was the case, right? So here's a scenario. It's like the first day of everything that's happening, and his girlfriend. This guy's he works the front desk of our academy. So
Mhm.
and it just so happened we had like kind of a perfect storm of things that happened where five different people kind of couldn't make it to work. Not all related to the takeover, obviously. This one was. And girlfriend gets pulled over for expired tags. The car smells like marijuana. So then they have a search, a probable cause. So again, like I can't fault the police for it, right? Like this is what they're going to go in and they find an unregistered firearm. And then, these guys from a rough neighborhood. Some of my instructors do have concealed carry permits. He does not, and
Mhm.
did not have, I guess, his firearm register. So went to jail. Had one phone call, and it wasn't us. Obviously, we had to figure it out later on that he couldn't make it to work for like a week, and then he had a um, ankle monitor put on him, so we also couldn't have him come into work like that without
Mhm.
some kind of explanation. So we're like, hey man, just stay home. We'll pay you for it. And of course, we don't know at this point what to do about it. So he's since been released. Everything is he's kind of going through the process of the law.
Mhm.
We've learned that it's a misdemeanor, not a felony. So hopefully, he can get that expunged from his record. But he's dealing with that, and it just kind of shed also some light on what's going on in the justice system because I think they're overwhelmed in the sense that there has been a lot of arrests. And so, he's like, look, I got to go to work next week. He got arrested on a Friday. Can we get a hearing done on Monday? So they
Mhm.
do. And then the prosecutor's like, I'm just not prepared. Like, I have no idea like how to do this. So then they're like, okay, well, you got to go back to jail. You can go home, but you got to wear this ankle monitor. So then now he's trying to
Yeah.
sort of get it all sorted out.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
all this chaos that's happening. Finally got it worked out where he can come to work. And then now it's like, okay, how do we kind of go? Where do we go from here? With him. He's always been a great employee, but this happened to him. It's like the first day you get picked up. It's kind of crazy. I got other employees that are concerned about, maybe have other issues that don't want to get picked up, so they don't come to work, and they've been open about it. They're like, I just don't feel I can't come to the city because of this. And I was like, okay, well, that does impact, of course, our ability to serve the community, but we're doing what we can. So it's kind of been a mixed bag, for us. But just you know, walking outside, I do see that there's not as much riffraff going on that usually happens. So, I mean,
Mhm.
there's that too, right? So, I think you got to take the bad with the good. It's not one way or the other, but I'm just sharing my observations of what I've seen, since
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
started. A lot of people are hoping that, the 30 days runs out and then they can feel safe to kind of go back and go back and go to work. And so we just gotta wait for that to happen. I've had other community members that come in that maybe own businesses that have some difficulty because their workers are not comfortable with going to work
Hmm.
for whatever reason. Could be status reasons, could be they just don't want to run with law enforcement. So um,
Mm.
there's been some issues there. Also, I've had some employees say like, "Hey, look, my parents don't feel comfortable going out. So, now I'm the breadwinner. Can I get some extra hours?" So there's been some, like I said, some good and bad there. Like, okay, great, because we have some
Hmm.
holes that we need to fill. So let's try to get you some more hours in. So it's been kind of, a strange time. And I still can't put my finger on whether it's been overall good or overall bad, And I've also had a lot of community members that have, I would say like students
Hmm.
that maybe that say that they feel unsafe going out, even though they
Hmm.
maybe shouldn't have a reason to be. Um, and that may have to do with the media, I guess. Uh, I had a Filipino person come over to me and she's like, oh, I haven't been here in 2 weeks. I was like, oh, it's great to see you, but can I ask why? We really missed you around here. She's like, oh, well, you know, I'm brown. I was like, oh, that didn't occur to me. 'Cause I am too. So, I don't understand. She's like, well, I just can't, I don't want to get
Hmm.
stopped by the cops. And I was like, I don't think that they're gonna, I don't know. I don't feel that way. I
Mhm.
definitely look different, but, I guess that's just me. So again, there you go. Some mixed, mixed feelings about what's happening. But I just thought I'd share them with you because I do run into a lot of people and I do talk to a lot of people. So
No, that's a really interesting perspective. I mean, it seems like there's a common theme of people being afraid, even if they've done nothing wrong or they have no sort of, I guess, there's still a fear of law
right.
enforcement that seems to be present in the community. Did anybody else want to add anything about what they've been seeing and hearing?
Well, I can tell you that, well, for a number of years, especially since the passage of the Civil Rights Act, Black
Mhm.
people have experienced the racial profiling that has been consistently happening in the African American community, and so this is the way that the pressure, the anxiety that everybody who is non-white is feeling now has
Mhm.
been the expression that Black people have been saying that we felt for so very long. And so it's in our DNA. The trauma of it is in our DNA, and we have been traumatically trying to be resilient, but it's difficult because it causes chronic stress. So that's the outcursor of everything, the outcomes of the feeling that everybody is feeling now, and it traumatically affects your health, your way of life, your well-being, whether or not you can feel safe in any community to be profiled while Black, walking down the street being profiled, just being seen as a threat every time someone sees a group of Black people around doing anything, even if they come out to various businesses to enjoy the company of people when they want to relax. So this is not unusual for the African American community, and particularly African American communities where people have never wanted them around. So this is not something that the African American community is not used to, and it is something that we warned the entire nation about it was going to happen. So, with that ignoring of that, and we're seeing people who requested, and I've been in many meetings where it's been requested that this type of presence happen. Now that it's on the ground, now we're hearing a shift, and oh, we didn't ask for the National Guard. Oh, we didn't ask for this to happen. So I'm curious to see, um, hey, and I'm speaking from looking and listening and being and even being in these meetings, being in
Mhm.
every 3D CAC meeting. Our organization has been around for 44 years. We started it because of this type of energy. 44 years. Okay. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. So can you imagine? We're in 2025. And I mean, and we went through a apartheid system here in the United States and still go through it. So seeing this type of situation occur nationally and also specifically now that everybody's feeling it all of a sudden, it's interesting. Um, so when people are feeling what they're feeling, I think everybody's voice needs to be heard. Everybody needs to say how it is and why it is that it's happening. And we need to make sure that we take the steps to make sure that people can engage us properly. Our organization was started to make sure that the police engagement happens properly, and we want to make sure that the community engagement happens properly. And now you see what happens when people target people based on the color of their skin. So when it happens with one group, and then all of a sudden they'll change it to, well, I don't like the fact that you have tattoos. I don't like the fact that you have earrings. I don't like the fact that you have glasses. They'll come up with anything, and that is not right. And we need people to respect people. If you want public safety, you shouldn't have the crime that is happening. No one should be killing each other, selling drugs, and causing harm and killing off our community. That's one thing. But if you use it as a smoke screen and mirror screen to do the other things that you always wanted to do, to be a nasty person, that's another thing altogether. So, what we need to do is focus on our community safety, keep our community safe. All these other nuances that comes with it needs to stop, and we need to really stand up to ask for our community to be safe. Because how is it that you bring in a group of people who's supposed to be um, respecting the law, and then use that as a opportunity to cause this type of effect on people that makes them fear going to work, going home, going to school, going to their offices, walking to the freaking store? That is unacceptable. And so, if you want to know my opinion, I will express it at all times, but that's my personal opinion. That's the community opinion. That's the real opinion that I know of, that I and my family and everybody that has lived in the neighborhoods that have dealt with this has been living with this false perception that we're helping public safety, but you really are targeting people through racial profiling. That's my take on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, I definitely think that, the racial profiling is a huge concern here, and it's not made better by the Supreme Court's recent decision that, ICE is able to continue to conduct sort of roving raids and that they're allowed to use ethnicity as one of the factors to target people. So,
Of
yeah,
course
thank
not.
you for sharing.
They went back, and what they did, they went back to the whole Dred Scott decision, where it's saying that people are three-fifths of a person. They were no longer when they went to the birthright right citizenship, they started attacking that. They are trying to take away the rights of people who are not white, period. So call a spade a spade. Okay? That's it.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Karen, you said it much more eloquently than I think I could hope for. I said this in an email to you, Francois, but I think one of the things I've been noticing, I've been out and about in Ward 1, specifically in our neighborhood, quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. The aggression from the feds in particular has had a huge uptick. I would say within the last week and a half. Like friends have gotten pulled off bikes. I got shoved by Secret Service. Like friends have gotten threatened to be arrested for literally standing near a fence. Cops are doing the thing where they're flashing the flashlight so their faces cannot be recorded. They're covering their badges and names. We've seen an uptick in cars driving without license plates, which makes it really, really difficult for us to make sure that our neighbors are safe or to make sure that ourselves are safe. Because I have a number of friends who have felt very targeted by the federal presence that has been in our city and in our ward specifically. Um, and I think one of the things I've noticed, I feel like Karen, you talked about like the idea that like a large group of people of color, particularly Black people, can be seen as this threat. And I've noticed a huge tick, even more than there was before, I think, of federal presence hanging out, particularly where like teenagers are. And they're teenagers who are literally just hanging out after school and chatting with each other and like Snapchatting and being on their phones and being silly teenagers. And they're not doing anything, but they're like three cop cars and two unmarked cars and like another one circling the block while they're staying there trying to hang out with their friends. And like that is contributing to a feeling that like our neighborhood isn't safe. It's not safe to go outside. It's not safe to hang out with your friends. And I feel like I could go on and give more specific examples. I would imagine everyone on this call has some very similar stories from your own experiences or from folks that you know that live in the neighborhood. But I think that the uptick in aggression is really what's What's been concerning me, that and the avoiding the accountability. Like again, like I have a video of like literally filming a detention where the cops are covering their badges once they see that we have a phone out, so that their names or their ID badges, like ID numbers, aren't going to be recorded and thus cannot be traced back to them. And that's like hugely concerning for me.
Was that federal law enforcement or MPD?
It's been a mix of both. I would say it's been more so on the side of the federal law enforcement.
Because
Can you
MPD
be more
is
specific
not
about the
allowed to
event?
do that. Sorry, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Claire.
oh no, Karen, go
MPD
ahead.
MPD is not allowed to do that. And if you even have, first of all, we have a police complaints division.
I've submitted stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
stuff has been submitted to the places where it
And
should be.
if you need to know, you can recommend that one, we have the way we have it set up on our site, you can either give accommodation for what good work you see, or you can make a complaint. Now we track that information because that's necessary. We have our public safety and block captains. Their job is, if you see that type of information, action happening, you report it, and their job is to report it. So what we can do is, since you are doing such a great job, Leah, I'm definitely going to make sure that we reach out to you, because we have a reporting and tracking system. If their faces are covered, and namely the federal law enforcement has been doing this, and we report all of this information. We also take the information, if you notice that there is activity that is unbecoming of an officer, we track that, but we highlight the good things that are happening too. So we try to keep a balance of how things are being done. We have a really good process of police community engagement, that we want to make sure that those trust factors that are being tested right now, that we look at how things are being done. We talk directly to MPD. We have that consistent conversation, so that you guys don't have any gaps or questions that you're like, man, I wonder what MPD thinks. We bring them all to the table. We bring the public officials, your elected officials, to the table for a reason. And this is the reason why I'm always going to be here supporting ANC 1B for that, because Francois, your member product of this entire process, so you know how it works. We want to see this type of engagement with our MPD, with our federal partners, because there should not be any segment of policing that we as a community is not involved with. However, when you notice any particular things, these incidents, as you mentioned, we have to report them. Leah, do not act as though, okay, I just don't, first not, don't be afraid. Two, make sure that you report it. Three, make sure you have a witness to your reporting, so it's not just you, because we don't want certain things happening to people who randomly report out, and then they're worried about, well, what happened to Leah? We want to make sure that you have a tracking mechanism in place, and we officially are the tracking mechanism. So I just want you all to make sure you utilize your resources wisely. And then for another thing, Francois, I cannot be, look, I'm okay. My passion about this particular topic is really, really heightened, because we have too many members of our community who are affected. And knock upon, in regards to your employee who's going through the ankle monitoring system, um there the we have our reentry programs that really try to address people who go through those particular type of situations when they're in their work environment, and then they become justice impacted, and they're trying to still be good employees and do their work. We don't want them to lose their source of income, especially if they're doing their part. But the deference that the employer takes in regards to the history of that employee, and even if they become just as impacted for various reasons, you have to make sure that you understand the landscape of our society, as well as making sure that they stay law-abiding citizens, whatever, when whatever they're doing. I mean, there's no, I really believe that everybody should follow the law to the best of their ability. But if people make up laws and, target them and say, oh, you were walking on the street, or, they're profiled, just because you have to be conscious of in this day and age that that's what's happening. So you have to use really great deference in how you're dealing with things. That's my suggestion, but there's some additional things that I have to do. I mean, offer you in regards to dealing with people who have been justice impacted. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a great day.
Um, I do want to transition to hearing from MPD because Captain Murphy, I believe, is on. Because I do think one of the tensions that's being brought up here is to what extent is MPD cooperating, working with federal law enforcement? To what extent is that a good thing or a bad thing, depending on, like Karen was saying, we want, the community and our police that we pay tax dollars for and that are overseen by, our elected officials. We want them to continue to have a voice in public safety, as, the federal law enforcement presence swells in DC. But at the same time, I do think there is significant concern or sort of the optics of seeing MPD working alongside federal partners at this time is also doing damage to trust in law enforcement among community members. So I'm curious to hear from Captain Murphy. Promoting him to speak right now.
Can I give you one tidbit on that too, Francois, before the captain speaks? They've been doing a lot of warrants, arrest
Mhm.
warrants. I
Mhm.
published a warrant list, and it's an extensive list. They've been having the support of the federal partners to help them enforce the arrest warrants for people who have current arrest warrants. And I'll
Mhm.
republish the list. You can search who has those warrants. It's really
Mhm.
easy to find out who has arrest warrants. It's a huge list, and they had not been, trying to, go after the folks who have them. And now that they have the federal partners in place, they use them to go in and get those people who have outstanding warrants. That's one way, but I want Captain Murphy to further give you guys further details because that's the main thing that MPD, when you see them all clustered together with them, they're not working on ICE. So make that very, very, very clear. Okay. That's what you see when you see them all clustered together. But Captain Murphy, it's your turn.
Hey everyone. Hey Karen.
Right.
Always a pleasure seeing you again. Yeah, I am Captain Murphy for those I haven't met. Like Karen said, she hit it right there on the nails. Everything she said is 100% accurate. Just before I talk about the task force, as far as our 30 days crimes, we've seen a great significant decrease in crimes in the third district as well as throughout the city. So not too much to report as far as any violent crimes or property crimes, because the crimes has decreased very significantly. In reference to working with the task force, I cannot speak directly into what the task force, what the federal side is doing, what their policy is, but I can only speak for MPD policy. And as far as our partnership with the task force, when the task force started about 31 days ago, I also am part of the task force as well. And with the partnership with the task force, I could say that as far as the partnership with MPD, so far from day one till now, we have made over 2,000 arrests and recovered about 260 guns, including rifles and shotguns, all with violent offenders that we took off the street. So far, we recovered about 260 guns off the street and made over 2,000 arrests all throughout the city. So this is the kind of work that we're doing with the task force. But as far as their policy or how they operate, how they do things, I cannot speak on it. Our policy remains the same. We still follow the same policy for MPD, and that's where we at on that side. And I'll take any questions.
Yeah, I'm curious with the mayor's recent executive order calling for, I guess maximal, I believe it was, yes, global cooperation with federal law enforcement, quote, to the maximum extent allowable by law within the district. Has that changed anything in terms of, what you all are doing on the ground?
No, no, it has not changed anything. We are in full cooperation with the task force. Nothing has changed on our side. They're very cooperating with us. It's a partnerships. Nothing has changed on our side, and we appreciate the extra visibility, the extra partnerships, and the extra resources. But on our side, nothing has changed as far as policing.
Claire?
Hi, Murphy, Captain Murphy. Thanks for being here. I wanted to sort of probe into the nature of your engagement with these federal officials that have the task force. Um, Most of the time, I feel I've seen them paired with MPD. Are there instances in which they are not?
No, we always together. They're always with MPD. We have, I believe, 2 roll calls, 12-hour shifts, where we have MPD managers always with the task force as well as MPD officers leading each teams. So we are always with the task force at all the time. So each MPD district is leading a task force.
That scans. But just being a citizen on the street, like walking from 7th to 14th to go get a McFlurry, would there be occasions in which I would see, the task force separate and apart, like physically from MPD?
No, no, we always together. And sometimes even if you don't see an MPD vehicle, maybe sometimes we partnership in their vehicle as well. But we always have MPD presence with the task force, and we have hotspots that we have put together throughout the districts where we in the task force are hitting those hotspots. So if you see like some type of convoy or MPD with a bunch of task force unmarked cruisers, that's because we in the hotspots all in the area throughout the districts that we have put out, just so we kind of do the extra visibility in those areas.
So they might be disparate within a hotspot, is what you're saying?
There might be what?
Disparate, like sort of dispensed within a hotspot.
Well, we're together. So we're together hitting all our spots together, like driving a convoy.
Okay. And then my final question, maybe a little bit of a digression, but I've seen a lot of parking enforcement on U Street, and that especially seems to precede increased, task force presence. Can you speak to that and like what the sort of logistics are and how that like comports and extends the mission?
So we've always had parking enforcements in the nightlife area. That's something that either DDOT will be more into, kind of give you in debt as far as the area responsibilities, but we've always had DDOT doing enforcements in the U Street corridor area on the weekends for the nightlife.
Is that a coordinated effort or is it separate and apart from task force and MPD?
Yeah, that's separate. It's a multi-agency nightlife task force. It's separate from the federal task force.
Okay, so if I'm seeing it, does causation imply correlation? I usually generally see parking enforcement and then I see task force. Is there a reason that you could like even like deign to hypothesize about it? I don't know.
No, so the federal task force is not working with traffic control officers. Like, if they're in the area, they're in the area. They just our task force are hitting hotspots in different locations. So if they happen to be there, we happen to be there. That's just what it is. But we're not working in correlations and together. That's just what it is.
And then final question, because I know your time is very valuable right now. Um, about identifying federal officers, members of the task force, and members of the MPD. I know it's difficult to clock, everyone's kit, everyone's, sort of vests and everything. But if I were able to clock a member of the MPD, like should I not be able to? Are you identifiable in a video taken by a pedestrian, etc.?
Our policy does not change. We are visible. We are, if you want our badge numbers cannot be hidden. We don't wear masks, but I cannot speak on the task force side, but our policy still remains the same. And if you want to file a complaint with the OPD, with MPD, just go to OPC liaison. Just like Karen says, there's a MPD website where you can file a complaint. Or if you're trying to file a complaint against the task force, then they probably have to refer that to the task force, to whatever agency that it is that you need to file a complaint on. But I cannot speak on their policy, but our policy remains the same. Our badge are visible. Everything with MPD, we have marked cruisers. We have our uniforms. Nothing has changed as far as INs.
Thank you, sir. So to summarize, if I see clusters of officers and PD officers in groups, or if clusters of federal agents in groups, task force members, then I should be able to clock an MPD member. I should be able to identify that MPD member. And then if it's they're a member of the task force, it's kind of up to me, whatever. They got different kits, like they've got different deployments, whatever. Is that true?
Yes, I mean, yes, yeah. Our uniform remains the same. So we have our vest that highly visible. That's the Metropolitan Police Department. We have our patch. So our uniform remains the same. You should be able to differentiate MPD between federal task force.
All right. And then have you run into, all right, your Captain Murphy, have you sort of run into like things on the street where you know, walk up on a group of officers like LEOs and you're like, hey, I'm not really sure who's here. Has that happened? Or would that happen with the current policy?
I'm sorry, repeat that. Repeat that question.
If you have you like run into situations, or could you imagine running into situations where you know, as Captain Murphy, like walk up on a group of officers and you're not really sure like which members of federal agencies are here? Is everyone like clearly designated as part of their federal agency?
No, so like me being part of the task force since day one, we have a roll call. So we go through
Mhm.
roll call. As a matter of fact, just yesterday I was in roll call and Miss Janine Durr was there in roll call. She conducted roll call for us and tell us, you know, her expectations and everything and how the great work the task force is doing with MPD. So we do have a roll call. After roll call, we get together and we have all the names. Everybody's accounted for, so we know where everybody's are, who's assigned to us, which task force agencies assigned to us. So everybody's accountability is there. And then we also put that on the chat. I'll put that on the roll call so we all know where everybody's at. So everybody's that's in the third district. We all know about it.
So down the flagpole, you would know about it.
Yes.
Okay. And then sorry for
Claire,
taking
I want to
time.
give Leah the chance to also ask a
Go,
quick
Leah.
question.
Go.
I am conscious of time since it's starting to get later, but I do think it's an interesting line of questioning that you've gone on here.
Yeah, sorry, my question is related. I just also have to jump off for a prior commitment at 8. Um,
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, Captain Murphy, because I'm looking at some of the photos and videos that I've taken of arrest, questioning, and detentions over the past couple of weeks. And there are multiple instances in District 3 where it's federal officers and there's no visible MPD presence at all. So I'm just curious because it sounds like it should be the opposite, but I'm seeing something very, very different in the footage I have taken that I have physically been on site to witness.
Um, every agency are assigned to MPD. So every MPD, that's one thing I could tell you for sure that I am in roll call. I am part of the task force. Every agencies, every different department that's assigned to us are accountable for in the third districts assigned with MPD. So if you see someone, maybe probably did not see MPD officers, maybe in that crowd, just let me know. Let me know what time and the date it is, and I'll let you know which team was leading it, what day it was, and what we was doing at the time. But all the time, we are accounted with the task force all the time.
Really quick, I want to be very specific before we lose you, and thank you so much for your time, Captain Murphy. Karen was mentioning that MPD is still not allowed to help with immigration enforcement. Is that true? I want to really understand what the current policy is in terms of, you know, if, you know, in terms of working directly with ICE.
Yeah, we do not. Our policy remains the same. We do not engage. We do not assist with any ICE enforcements.
So if an ICE agent needed a ride somewhere, would MPD provide that?
Well, they have their own vehicles.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you so much for that clarification, and for answering our questions. I do think we need to move on to one final question on this issue, which is, you know, how do we respond? One of the most direct ways, as many folks saw, I think it was circulated on Twitter, but ANC's received an email from Marcus Hunt, who is the director of the DC National Guard. He was asking for ANC help with identifying projects or initiatives where the DC National Guard can stand alongside ANC commissioners and residents on neighborhood beautification efforts. I'm curious what folks think in terms of should 1B send a reply. Is this something that is desired, or is this something that could cause further difficulties in terms of, we don't want to be inviting more National Guard presence in our communities? It's obviously a weird situation to be in because, on the one hand, obviously the district needs more help with beautification and needs more help in terms of law enforcement resources. On the other hand, it's very unprecedented to be sending the military into American cities, especially when there is no real emergency or crisis. And, like we've been talking about, there's been serious loss of trust in the community for law enforcement and skepticism of sort of the intentions of this effort. So I am curious to hear the committee's thoughts.
I would be happy to begin this conversation. There's two things. One, the National Guard is a group of individuals who chose to serve our military. They work, they have jobs, they have families, and they're deployed within the district to serve in the district. And unfortunately, we have other states who are attempting to bring their guards into the Washington D.C. area. Now, with that being said, they're trained to serve to help the community under duress of an emergency, such as back in the time when people were profiling the city and there was race riots where they were causing harm, or if there's a incident where there people are having emergency incidents where the city is being attacked. Our city is not being attacked at this time. Okay, there and even though we may have some domestic incidents with crime, our city is not under attack or has a need for occupation. And to spend our taxpayers' dollars on a landscaping crew or a rat abatement crew or anything when we actually have DC money scheduled for that, and they should be. This is the reason why we have the DC agencies. The ANC's job is to make sure that the DC agencies are doing their job, not the National Guard. Okay, that's first and foremost the wrong application for that the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the National Guards. That's not their job description. And that is
Mhm.
not, we're not trying, we do not need that to be their job description. That is a forced occupational process that is happening that the district residents do not need to have any person who serves in armed services. And I'm a Gold Star family member, so I'm talking from knowing this. Okay, this is
Mhm.
not what they're trained to do, whether they're in any portion of our guard services. It's the Army National Guard. That's not what the Army is trained to do. They're trained to fight war efforts or safety efforts that is for that where we are under attack, and we are not under attack. So I think that,
Mhm.
and I got the notice too. I just thought it
Mhm.
was inappropriate. I know people have been
Mhm.
jokingly saying, well, maybe they can work on the rats and maybe they can work on trash and,
Mhm.
the stuff but that's where we need to make sure that the oversight of the government is doing their job, where the people who are scheduled to do this, that we've been paying our taxpayer money, they do their job in those particular categories. The National Guard, who's been eating our money from our budget. What is it? Over 900 thousand dollars so far, over close to $1 million, where you could have been using those resources towards something else. That $1 billion that was taken away from our actual taxpayer money that was taken away from our DC budget needs to be replaced to utilize it for the resources that our government needs to use it for. But that's my soapbox speech on that. Thank you.
Thanks for that perspective. I'm curious whether anybody else wanted to add anything. Unfortunately, we lost Leah, but she told me she had to go at 8. And I'm cognizant of time, but I am curious whether folks, yeah, have other thoughts on the notice that was sent out.
Look, if they're going to be lurking around, then I think there is an erstwhile dog park the not to be too neighborhood centric, but there is an erstwhile dog park at the corner of 7th T, Florida, right across from the Howard Theater, that no one would take their dogs to because I don't have a dog, but I wouldn't want them eating needles. Um, and if they wanted to beautify that, I'd be fine with it. It would take 2 days. So, maybe that's, something they could occupy themselves with. That's my bet.
I don't think that we'll be using our resources wisely having them there because the goal is once you have you engage and bring them into the community, welcome them into the community and become a part of the fabric of the community, it changes that dynamic that we should see people walking around in military uniforms, carrying their long weapons in order to I thought we were trying to get rid of all the guns that we had in our city. I mean, and then the fear factor, people going to school, people going to work, people not using their businesses. That is not what we want. We want to have a full-fledged law enforcement agency that can be fully occupied with law enforcement officials who are trained in public safety, who knows their job is to take care of the citizens of our the 700,000 over 717,000 citizens of Washington, D.C. properly. And they are trained. They know our community. They know the community members. We do not need outside people who do not care about the Washingtonians. We do not need people who do not care about the true issues of our neighborhood safety, about how our city is clean, the potholes, we whether we need crossing guards, whether we need they don't care about that. They want to go back home to their children. They want to take care of we don't need them sitting somewhere where they can eat our sandwiches and walk down our streets and do everything in our city for nothing. They're not serving a real purpose. So that's again, I don't think that we should make light of it at all.
I could not agree more. Uh, but if we accept the premise that they are here, we might as well put them to good use.
I think that's helpful. I think, both of you, I'm just saying I think that those are both good points. I mean, I think I agree definitely personally that this is not the best use of resources. And the National Guard really was not meant for this in any way. And I do worry about, sort of normalizing a military occupation of an American city. And then I also hear Claire's point that, if they're going to be here, they might as well do something useful. But yeah, I don't think like anybody on the commission has really like made up their mind about what they want to do here. And so that's why I'm not asking you all to vote on anything right now, because this is so recent and we're still thinking about like what does this mean and is this at all a good idea? But thank you for the input. I'll be sure to pass along both perspectives to the commission next time we meet if this comes up. I do want to move on now, unless anybody else had anything to say, um, to talk about late night hype. Karen, I'm wondering whether you've heard anything about this. I believe there was, Gene Hamza is on the call, mentioned that the mayor had discussed wanting to make those events more of a priority and potentially bringing them to Banneker, which Chris Dyer from DPR had not heard about. So would it be helpful for us to advocate for something like that?
Okay, yeah, I certainly want to discuss the late night hype. It's an MPD program, and what
Hmm.
we've been doing with this particular program, we actually initially we had the Roving Leaders, which was the best program because it was a consistent one and they're supposed to be stationed in all of the recreation centers. However, Banneker has not been community centered in regards to taking care of the youth that they're
Hmm.
supposed to take care of. They've been actually been focused on some hyper local, and when I say extra hyper local, they'll have a specific vanity group that they've been basically catering to, and they're not really focused on the community like they're supposed to, using the
Hmm.
community resources. And I say that because each one of the DPR facilities is for the recreation of the youth and the entire citizens of the District of Columbia. And they are not supposed to be vanity groups for any particular grouping of people. And that's the reason why the all the youth in our area needs to have a venue that is specifically open for them and welcoming for them. That's we I mean Nakapon had mentioned having something, but we need to make sure that the youth in our city has a location where they can feel comfortable going to, and that is the point of the late night hype. Late night hype offers them a array of different things to do. However, because it's only they try to get everybody in one location and they have all these activities, it's not spread out enough. We need all of the various DPR locations
Mhm.
to have something offering at that same time so that it can be spread out and all of the youth, regardless of where they're from, can go to it in their vicinity. That
Yeah.
way, we don't have a crowded group of individuals from various neighborhoods who may have beefs with each other going to one place, but then once they leave, then they become targets. You get what I'm saying? So they're
Mm.
it's like they're sitting ducks. So
Yeah.
they want
Yeah.
to enjoy the activities. However, they can't enjoy it properly because it goes outside of their neighborhood. So what we need
Mhm.
to make sure is we have Harrison Recreation, we have
Yeah.
Maria Bright, we have Banneker, we have all of these different recreation locations throughout the Washington, D.C. area, and they need to
Mhm.
be utilized properly. And they also need to be full entry recreation centers where people don't
Mhm.
have to go through all of they put too many too much bureaucracy on allowing children to be children in our recreational facilities, so they're not able to use the facilities that the government pays for to enjoy their neighborhoods. That's one of the problems. That's why you did not. Who the heck runs a recreation facility for children that don't know how to take care of the children? I was disappointed. So I'm just going
Yeah.
to let you
Yeah.
know
Yep.
how I felt about that discussion.
Mhm.
And
I hear you.
so what I'm saying is the late night hype, the roving and the reason why I said the roving leaders, they know how to do the programming at the various
Mhm.
recreation centers. Late night hype is if it's placed in all of the recreation centers on say for instance, if they did it like every Friday, I guarantee you, you would not see half of the public safety issues that we're
Mhm.
having in the city
Mhm.
every Friday night, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, for the weekends when other people, the grown-ups want to let their hair down and enjoy the neighborhoods. You won't see that happening because the children, young people have somewhere to go. But if you close off having venues for young people to go to, places
Yeah.
for them to
Yeah.
let their hair down. Remember, this has been that was the discussion that I had with Brandon and you.
Yep.
I was
Yep.
like, we need to have recreation centers open consistently for them.
Mhm.
And I could tell you because I'm a native Washingtonian, when I grew up, we had access. They
Mhm.
do not have the access that we had. We could play all night,
Mhm.
no matter what neighborhood you're from,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it's a concrete jungle. It's not like you can go and have
Yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
all of the greenery that you should be able to do. But because of that, you could I mean, we stayed in these recreation centers. You can, as a child, you could go to any recreation center throughout the city and have a wonderful time, all the offerings. However, they've been limited. They don't have enough offerings based on, if you look at the DC public school system, the numbers for the DC public schools, it never measures up in regards to the offerings for the recreation centers. And so I suggest that they level it up based on the number of the population of youth
Mhm.
who are taken care of by the public school system. That way we won't we you know that they have everything in order. That they'll
Mhm.
have like five openings and then we have 500 kids. That's the type of
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
have. And then they only do these little events. And I'm not
Mhm.
speaking of late night hype only, but they only do these
Mhm.
little events and don't have the numbers for it. And it's not really conducive to good, consistent community programming to get
Hmm.
rid of the problems that we have with public safety. They need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kids need to be kids, and
Hmm.
that's what late night hype is supposed to offer. They have beautiful programs one day.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we
So
need to we need to expand it. That's my take on it. Thank you.
no, no, I mean, I think that's great. I really agree with everything you said, I think. And I think, I was talking with Brandon and he was interested in potentially working on a resolution because I was saying, do you want to work on a resolution regarding this? And so I think it would be great for you and Brandon to partner. I'm happy to help if anybody else on the committee wants to join as well. But I do think it would be great to draft something to really call attention to this and say, this is what we want. We want more of these type of programming. We want it at all the rec centers. We want this to happen soon. And, I know that the summer's starting to wind down, but, we can get ready for next summer and we can finish off this summer strong. But I do think this is something that this is where our advisory role as an advisory neighborhood commission comes in. So I would love to yeah, send the message to the mayor particularly because I think this is sort of like a
Um,
top-down leadership thing that they should make this a priority.
I'm raising my hand. I apologize, Francois, because
Very good.
it should be a year-round programming.
Okay.
We
Yeah, yeah,
should
yeah.
not be a monolith of only summertime activities. Children grow
Fair.
up throughout the year.
I
People
agree.
grow
I
up
agree.
throughout the
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
And you can have programming during the wintertime. You can have programming every single month in a year, and you
Mhm.
have to be intentional. If you are intentionally wanting to improve the dynamics of our city, you have to be
Mhm.
much more intentional in how you engage with the young people in our city so that they can have a great and awesome, beautifully awesome childhood and into adulthood. And it allows them to have the different tools that they need in order to be productive citizens in the
Mhm.
Washington D.C. area. And that's what the resolution that I've given to my portions of that resolution that I already contributed. It has to be consistency. It has to
Mhm.
be intentional programming that you want to see the youth matriculate into law-abiding,
Yeah.
wonderful members of our society. And you
Mhm.
can't do that by just doing it one day, 1 week, 1 month, or just summertime. It has to be
That's fair.
consistent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I think I'm all for it. Great. Well, hopefully, we can work with Brandon on that. I think that would be a good project. And would definitely, benefit from your experience, Karen, actually seeing these programs in action. I think that's really helpful and like sort of, yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about the program, honestly. I'm trying to learn more. So I think that could be really helpful. Um, so really quickly, last question on the topic of youth. Um, Curious whether folks think the youth curfew is working, whether it's having an impact, whether it's a positive, and whether it should potentially continue in some form, the sort of more strict curfew, the rolling curfews that can be targeted, or sort of the targeted curfews in different areas. I know that this has become a controversial topic. Some people think that, it's over policing youth, putting too much surveillance and enforcement on young people who are, just trying to have fun and maybe putting them into creating greater contact with law enforcement that is unhelpful for their futures. So I am curious what folks think. I know it's a big, big topic, but I am just curious to hear. Claire.
So honestly, I think the expanded metro hours have been
Mhm.
really helpful in, maybe like if they seem to be coming from the metro and populating U Street, etc. But I do think the expanded metro hours and accessibility have been helpful. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know if we can even like press the gas on that because the
Mhm.
gas is on, right? But I think that the use curfew has been, it's been
Mhm.
okay. Uh, I don't know if it ought to continue. That seems to tread into over policing, especially since school has started.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I also wanted to bring up safe passage while we're doing this.
Sure. I mean, that's a whole other topic. But if you, yeah, please, if you
For
have anything
next
to
for
say about
next
it.
for next
For
month,
next,
I think we should start talking
that's
about
fair.
safe
With
passage. It's
school being
already
back.
September 8th. Like we should
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Yeah. Any other thoughts about the curfew?
The curfew comes under public safety, as you and this
Mm,
is, and the reasoning behind curfew is based on what the data is showing in regards to what's going on. And I just gave you a full expression of how to deal with the root causes of
sure.
anything. And I believe
Yeah.
that if you don't deal with root causes, you will see the results. So
Mhm.
that's my take on how to deal with that particular situation.
No, I agree. I think it's a not great solution to the fact that we as a society and a city have not done enough for youth at various points in their life and giving them other outlets. So I definitely take that point. Um, Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to discuss, or at least mention, put on folks' radar, is that, I'd spoken with Karen about this before, but one of the issues I've seen on U Street is that, traffic can get crazy with pedestrians, with cars. There's a lot of conflicts, there's a lot of honking. It's really disruptive to the neighborhood, and it sort of creates a general sense of disorder and chaos that I think is unhelpful for public safety. The head of DDOT recently spoke to the full commission, and I asked her directly about this idea of, DDOT taking a more active role in managing traffic. And she was honestly surprised that the DDOT personnel that are already out there are not doing that, which I was surprised by. So, I can only see so much, living in the neighborhood, but in my experience, the personnel out there are generally standing by their cars and blocking off roads. They're not actually sort of directing traffic or protecting pedestrians or telling cars to move around if they're stuck or something like that. I'm curious whether that's what other folks are seeing, and then whether, whether this what we want to sort of push DDOT to do more of, because she said that she was going to bring it up as an issue with her personnel, and that she had a similar vision for you know DDOT's role on U Street and in the area.
I addressed this with
Uh,
Captain
uh,
Murphy, and it was about, how I feel DDOT precedes police presence. And I'm all for towing people, honestly. I'm a sicko like that. But I think DDOT sort of like and I think what you may be referring to is DDOT sectioning off 9th Street.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, no, a perfect roadblock. If that's what they feel they have to do with public safety, that's interesting because apparently they have no coordination with public safety. Uh, and so I would be fascinated to learn more about that.
my share on this is
Hmm.
there when you give people the proper job descriptions, it's
Yeah.
in their job descriptions, and they will carry out their duties. These
Hmm.
people have not been given the traffic control job description of a traffic control officer, which is generally they have the crossing guard job description, and
Hmm.
that's not the persons who you see, the personnel who you see that's placed out there, that's not their job description. Now, the placement of traffic control officers, which DDOT has that, the crossing guards, they have that particular purview. They're not placed out on the street in that location, at the
Hmm.
locations where we had discussed. However, if they have those personnels in those locations at that time, then of course they can do their job. But DJOT
Hmm.
has been having a lot of turnover, and
Hmm.
so the efficiency of keeping one request to another has been what our issue was, because
Hmm.
they had a gap, and then even though we're just getting the new young lady in, um, it's been a huge
Mhm.
delay in
Mm.
any of
Mhm.
our requests, and we have a lot of different DDOT related items on the table. And although the director spoke to a few things based on that, the questions, I always, what we do is we do data tracking. If we give them a request, we want to see exactly how things are going. They're not consistent, and we need to make sure that as an agency, for oversight for that agency, whatever it is that you guys are giving from this particular commission to DDOT, that there's a consistent tracking and no one drops the ball on tracking that information. What we've been doing for our U Street Public Safety task force is making sure that we're tracking what we give to DDOT. We ask them to come to the table. They do those no shows consistently, and then when the director shows up, it's like, oh, I didn't
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And not to dismantle anything, but we just need to have that consistency with what you
Mhm.
say you're going to deliver to our community, because we need that. And
Mhm.
I'm personally staying on top of it because we have a number of requests for DDOT that we're trying to follow through on. But this has been a common complaint across the city. So hopefully we can get that, we can just sort of rejuvenate what their responsibilities are, and just try to engage them in as positively as possible, but with the firmness of understanding that we really want
Mhm.
them to deliver on the requests that the community needs. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's helpful context. I definitely, yeah, I would love for the DDOT personnel to have the right description, to have the right tools at their disposal. Um, I was just surprised that the head of DDOT was saying that they should be doing more than just standing at their cars. So she seemed to have a different idea of what their role was than maybe they have right now. So hopefully we can help close that gap and push them in the direction um, of doing more. We have Jean Hamza on. I'm curious what her thoughts are on this idea and this situation.
Yeah, hi. For those of you that don't know me on the committee, I'm Jean Humza from the 930 Club in Lincoln Theater, Lannis. So I've been working on parking issues since really last November, and
Hmm.
we had that meeting at the Lincoln Theater with a PIA, and one of the main issues around that was the parking, the party on the street,
Yeah.
and of course the 1900 block of 9th Street. There's a 100% lack of imagination around this. I don't know how else
Mhm.
to put it. I mean, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
show up and they block it off and it becomes a party street, and nobody wants that. So, and then so after last spring, some of it's changed. Sometimes they don't do that. There's a little bit more communication. Um, I don't know, I don't go enough to these 9 p.m. meetings on Friday and Saturday nights, but people need to show up and start, to find out what's the plan for the night, because that's where they make the plan, from my understanding.
Hmm.
But DDOT is a challenge. I'd never seen the director until that meeting. I don't know who it was from DDOT that was at the Lincoln meeting. I'd never seen that individual before either. So there is a lack.
Sorry.
Maybe Melvin Smith needs to be invited to a meeting where we could talk about it. But yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, and the
Hmm.
businesses are literally, some of the businesses are dying because of the lack of DDOT taking care of what's going on in the streets, along with MPD, and everybody seems to be happy enough just to contain the problem on U Street, and it's killing the businesses. That's
Thank
my
you.
thoughts.
Thank you, Jean. Can you expand upon this sort of businesses are dying on 9th Street, et cetera? I want to know how it's affecting 930 Club. I want to know how it is affecting Black Cat, et cetera.
It's not on 9th Street, U Street.
U Street.
9th Street is, a business closes and immediately another one opens, and ABC committee can talk about those challenges. But no, 14th Street is doing all right. They're not having the problems we're having. Literally, you can talk to the Ferrandos who own Black Cat, and they're like, yeah, their biggest issue is parking for their clients. Not the bands, but just for people coming. So I wish that was our biggest issue.
And
So
so what would you say your biggest issue is if you could compress it?
the biggest issue is the party on the street. Residents are not coming and supporting 801, Toccato, to the Yogi Gogis or Gogi Yogi, I can't remember what it is, and these other restaurants. Y'all aren't coming out. And or Dukem or Ben's Next Door or whatever it is, sit down restaurants. And so we've lost the one really kind of fine dining restaurant we had on the 1300 block. The social whatever it is has come in there, and they're not going to survive. I have not seen any business in there that's going to keep that place going. So yeah, that's what I mean by it. Businesses, you'll read Popville, and oh, this restaurant's opening, that restaurant's opening. Well, they're all opening in spaces where other restaurants closed.
So have you seen a decrease in your attendance at the 930 Club?
I cannot speak to that because I haven't asked specifically that question. I mean, that's a box office question, and I'm not, doing attendance every day.
Correct.
So that's not my job. So I would have to specifically ask that question. But yeah, I know we're getting phone calls. People are concerned, but it's got a lot to do with the federal takeover. But most people are coming. They say there've been studies done that for every dollar spent at an entertainment venue, whether it's a Black Cat or 930 or it's a movie theater, $12 $12 generated in elsewhere in your immediate community by these people coming and attending shows. What I can tell you is our customers might, come a little early, get some pizza at Andy's or something, and then they're bailing. And then we're going right to the Metro. Part of that is Metro closing early. I mean, there's a whole confluence of issues that are affecting people who have purchased tickets. So this is not, hey, let's go eat dinner at 801. This is, I bought a ticket to see an event, and it's a whole different ballgame. So you can't, it's apples and oranges. I want to make
No,
it
absolutely.
very, very clear.
As someone who has eaten the swatchos at the Ice House right next to your venue, I totally agree. Is there anything that the Public Safety Committee could do, or do you have a specific ask? And I will actually leave that to Francois.
Francois and I could talk, and I'd like to have even better dialogue. But I mean, it's not that we don't have an open communication. It's like I don't know what the ask is when I cannot get, literally Donald Trump is throwing logs under our feet of doing things with MPD that we were trying to do, and now Matt Fay from ANC 1B and I have reached out to the council member's office. We'll see, if we can get anything going that way. But one of the things that we would like to see happen, at least during the warm weather, is to have no parking on U Street, late hours on weekend nights, like they do at DuPont, because the party's on the street. I mean, there's literally people selling alcohol out of the trunks of their cars. And guess what? That's a misdemeanor. And so they don't get arrested because they're not going to get prosecuted. Well, if I were a student at Howard University, I only had to walk 3 blocks to buy alcohol on the street. And I'm not putting this on Howard University because the people are coming from everywhere. But the party's on the street.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's something to discuss with maybe the U.S. attorney.
Well, I did, and I have, and
Yeah.
actually MPD has. I mean, this has been going. I've been
No, I
involved
know
in
it's
this
not new.
conversation for a long time.
Yeah.
But if I were to have a public safety request, it's that it's not okay. The community needs to let MPD know that it is not okay that they contain this problem on U streets, and I put this with air quotes so that it doesn't go back into the neighborhoods. Well, yeah, I guess so, but it's not okay to contain it on U Street either.
Mhm.
You all understand my point? Like this has become the solution to keeping it out of the residential neighborhoods. Well, I really don't envision a lot of people selling alcohol back on V Street. They're doing it on Vermont and on 10th around the African American Civil War
Mm.
Museum because it's, an empty, they can pull up, there's no houses right there. There's very few across the street, that kind of thing. So the party's definitely on our end of the street,
Yeah.
got all these motorcycles lining up
Mhm.
on in front of the Lincoln Theater. I was there last Friday night, and when I left, they were already starting to line up. What's up with that? Why is that okay? That's a no parking zone anyway. Well,
Mhm.
because we don't have enough police. And yeah, and that's really true. We don't. It would take an army, and I don't use that term loosely, to
Mhm.
move all these people out of the neighborhood. So the idea with the parking is to make it uncomfortable to be there
Yeah. Yeah.
and to have targeted ticketing. And if you got black windows, then you got a ticket, and oh, your license plate is sort of covered. Now another ticket and another ticket and another over ticketing until you walk away with $400 in tickets. I don't care. If you're causing
Yeah.
a problem in my neighborhood, I don't care.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the idea is to make it uncomfortable because we don't have an army to move these people on. And what's to stop them?
Mhm.
I could share with you all a video that went out on Gay Pride weekend, and literally it's just a video about 40 seconds of a video of people partying at 9th and U, lots of twerking. The song is all about twerking, and there's no address other than U Street, 10 p.m. Bring your own bottle and bring your own weed. That's it. So somebody's literally promoting partying on U Street. Why? How do you make money doing that? Guys, this is a really, really complicated question that I have been examining for almost a year now. There's a lot going on. And until our community says, hey, this isn't okay, it's going to keep going on.
I absolutely hear you. Could you share that video? I know that sounds useless. I'm sorry. When I said that, I know it sounds useless. Could you share the video and could you share like specific complaints? And then maybe what the DC local government could do to help facilitate like the absolutely valuable experience that the 930 Club adds. Ma'am, I was literally just at one of your shows and it was like life-changing. So I appreciate it.
Sorry,
Karen, do you have something to
muted.
add? And then,
I appreciate that very
yeah.
much. So I'm going to try, I guess I can try sharing this in the chat.
You can also email it to me, and I can distribute it if you'd like. But I do think that, yeah, advocating for, what we need from DDOT, what we need from MPD, and the parking enforcement continues to come up as an issue. So I think that's a good thing for the committee to focus on, honestly.
Try looking in the chat. I don't know if it's successful or not.
Just to give you one more moment, what would you change?
I'd start with the parking. I mean, like you're talking about a very complicated problem. And we like I said, I mean, you can bring in an army and chase everybody away. And then not only that, you got the youth showing up, and that's just another added drama that the police have to deal with. And I mean, literally, I was there on a safety walk when the commander gets a radio call that for the police down at the wharf are letting them know that the Metro police have told them that there's a gang of kids that are just getting on the Metro on the red line or whatever, and they're coming our way. And, you know, like they're communicating about it. So that takes, you know, away from the policing of the activity on the street. So the youth are just another added issue. I don't have answers, you know, seriously examining this problem, but it sure would be nice to get some people to make decisions from DDOT and MPD in the same room. And we were trying to do that, but I lost an assistant chief to retirement, and then we all know we lost the commander. And I was working very closely with Commander Pulliam, and that has not yet. The new commander is overwhelmed, and now, you know, Trump's literally throwing logs under our feet.
I absolutely hear you, ma'am. And I think anything that the Public Safety Committee could do, we absolutely will, you know, as far as drafting a resolution to keep the 930 Club alive, because we feel it's essential.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really, really do hear you. But honestly, I'm not advocating so much for 930 Club as I am for the business
Well, I'm
community.
advocating for 930 Club. I'm sorry.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. But I think most of these people on this call know that I'm a community activist for the community, for U Street. U Street corridor is my heart and has been for quite a few decades. So I every time we lose a small business, we're losing part of who we are. And it makes it harder and harder to get something in besides a bar. I mean, all the new development that's going on around Howard, and I'm talking to these developers. We need a music store. A real music store. We've got a world-class marching band at Howard. Where did they, you know, like you can't buy everything online, and you certainly can't try an instrument online. So just simple little things like that, you know, most of us grew up with in the neighborhood. We're just, it's a dearth. It's restaurants and bars, and I'm all about that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, we live in DC. There's other things we need. It's just
I hear
that
you.
simple. All right, I'll get off my soapbox. I just wanted to put that out there about, I mean, very, very complicated situation that we have, and I don't have answers, but certainly if there's an opportunity for a resolution, the ANC has been involved pretty much with everything I've been doing. Matt and Miguel are aware because so much of it's econ focused. But yeah, the ANC is very involved, so it's not like maybe this first time I'm really bringing it to public safety, but yeah, it's not. It is something that's definitely on the ANC's agenda, and I want the ANC involved because I really do feel at some point we'll need resolution. I need the full support of activist people, because you people are. Who else spends their evenings doing this stuff? Really?
Thank you so much, Gene.
Not enough.
Okay, I wanted to weigh in a little bit because I one, as Jean knows, I mean, she's come to the public safety meetings, and we've had these, and this is the MPD public safety meetings, and so we do have things in play. We try to think of the community as a whole whenever we look at these situations. How is it going to affect beyond one geographic location? So we want to make sure that everyone is on board. And a lot of the community members have been expressing issues about losing parking. I'm in transportation committee. I'm within this ANC. I can, you know, I try to fulfill a lot of roles to ensure that I can hear all perspectives. And so, you know, they'll complain about parking because parking has been a humongous issue in the area. And the loss of any particular parking space in the area is a huge concern. And I've advocated consistently that we need to get a parking garage in this area, several parking garage. We have one under the Reeve Center, but it's going to be excavated once the Reeve Center project is underway. We do have private parking spaces at HFA. However, that is not a government facility that we can say, oh, all the community is invited for that. But with all the development, all these beautiful spots that is offered for businesses on the U Street area and beyond, I am amazed that no one has developed a actual parking garage to take over the parking situation for all the patrons who use these businesses to go to, because that's what people are looking for. So when the atmosphere that has been created from the community culture and vibe on U Street that draws in the clientele that likes to go to the bars, like to hang out and party, we need to make sure that they have the well-rounded amenities that they need in order to draw to the businesses. When you ask for the green dollars, it's going to come with various shades of people attached to it. I've heard complaints from the community that some of these bars are not welcoming to some people. And and I asked specifically, why are you guys selling alcohol on the street when you have all these bars to go to? They said, well, that's because someone dragged one woman down the steps out of a bar by her hair. One bar owner, they never let people in because of the color of their skin. So those are concerns that people have, and that they don't feel as though they can party in places. And then also, as we talked about earlier, we need to have places for these young people to go to, so that they're not in the midst of that activity and thinking that this is okay to do certain activities out on the street. This is not Bourbon Street. We need to know that, yes, this is a neighborhood community, and yes, DC is really open for business, and they're trying to get as many businesses, have vibrant businesses. However, when you say that this is the entertainment district, specifically U Street, and because initially it was Black Broadway and it had all types of venues, as the Lincoln Theater is one of the venues for the Black Broadway area, and the 930 Club has all these different venues that usually used to attract a lot of the vibrant visitors that is from the area and made them that those particular venues famous. However, now it's closed its doors to allowing the population to come in. And so they said, guess what? We're spilling it out on the street. I asked specific questions, not to judge why they're doing certain things, but to understand it from Gene's point of view. Why are these businesses losing customers? So those were the answers, Gene. Just in case you didn't know that, I asked that for on your behalf, really, to sort of find out, why are you guys doing this? And so to make it attractive, marketing is always ways to make businesses more attractive. That's why you see these new pop-ups come around, because they want to take care of the type of customer that that most people look for in those entertainment zones. But we really need to make sure that everybody is using and paying their taxes that's necessary to be business owners, and that they are doing good business in DC. And so we're trying to curb that. One of the things that we've been doing under our MPD task force is to make sure that the vacant and abandoned streeteries are no longer being on U Street. And I have that under our transportation committee for us to address that. Now, that's still public safety. And Francois, I know that you probably seen the resolution on that. That's still public safety. We're trying to address that from the MPD understanding, and also from the community understanding as well. Parking is such a gold ticketed thing. So to lose parking spaces in any way, shape, or form is not something that the rest of the residents want to see, in spite of the need for the businesses to want to see that curbed up. That the slingshots parked in front of the Lincoln Theater has been a cultural thing that it attracts people who come into the area. And when I say slingshot, that's the name of the actual vehicle, the vintage vehicles, the souped up vehicles that has all the bells and whistles attached to it, and the guys are lined up attracting. They're doing it for show. That is, they have seen that as a cultural thing that they've been doing. That is part of the community fabric. They used to do it at the McDonald's parking lot across from Howard University, and then they moved it to the right in front of the Lincoln Theater, um, mainly because that's where the energy and the action is. If it was a dead zone, they wouldn't be there. So again, I'm just letting you know that that's the history of those particular groupings that you see that has been in front of the Lincoln Theater because of the attachment to the whole Black Broadway system. I don't want there to be any misconstruing or misunderstanding of why they're there. But in regards to the right at the African American Memorial Museum where they're doing the extra activities, they have a Black LGBT community who has been trying to get consistent opportunities. They had a huge protest on U Street not too long ago to basically show people that they weren't being welcomed into the various venues along U Street. And so that's some of the outcursors of that has been occurring. They're trying to get some establishments open, but for some reason, every time they have been trying, they have been going through a bureaucracy system that they are tired of running into. So I asked the real questions. I'm hoping these are answers that I know that most people are not used to hearing, but this is an opportunity for you to hear the actual answers that has been to the questions that Jean posed this evening. Thank you.
All right, it looks like Jean has her hand up. I want to let her comment, and then I think we got to wrap things up for the night. Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I got to push back a little bit, Karen. Uh, Underage kids coming from South Carolina in their car to the party on U Street are not coming to the party on U Street for the reasons you named. We have become literally an East Coast party destination that have nothing to do with the things that you are outlining. And I'm not going to say that the things you said aren't possibly a part of the problem. But I've got to push back. That is not the reason. We have thousands of people on the street partying. And the other thing is, maybe that's the reason these gentlemen are parked in front of the Lincoln Theater, but it is not okay. I'm going to make it very clear. It is not okay. We have
And
people
I
that are leaving
understand
the
that.
establishment that are trying to get their Ubers, get picked up, their rides, and they can't because there's people everywhere. In addition to the fact that by parking there, they're adding more people. More people are partying there. More people are coming, and it's another hotspot the cops have to watch.
Exactly. And remember, I made sure that I did a full, thorough investigation based on our meetings that we've had, Jean, because I wanted to know the real reason. You know, I heard your point of view, and then I said, let me do a deep dive and get the others' point of views. And I went out, I did actual investigation myself personally to get these answers because I don't, if it pops up in a community conversation, my job is to make sure that I hear everybody's voice in the community. And so that's what I've done in order to ensure that, guess what, Jean, when Jean has this question, how can we address this particular question? And I broached it based on your question that you presented to me during our meeting. And I really want us to address it with the community's input, you know, and I try to be fair in making sure that we get all of the perspectives because that's why we do these particular asks. However, um, when people are people, one person, word of mouth is a wonderful way to promote and advertise. That's what they do. So if you happen to see someone who's visiting from out of state, it's because of what they heard from their friends who influenced them to come up. And influencing is done through various channels like the social media platforms, as well as just general, hey, I know my friend hangs out there, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you mentioned that the current administration is creating a way in which they're driving people away. That's an added um, thing that was not even, we didn't even expect that to happen in this, in light of everything. However, we want to keep people safe. We don't want people to be in places where they feel unwelcome, and we don't want people to be attacked just because of the color of their skin when they're out on the street. And that's unfortunately the current atmosphere that's happening right now. What we want to see is people enjoy the entertainment district and be able to enjoy each one of these venues that are offering to see have the wonderful array of opportunities at the 930 Club, which they have a great listing, have a wonderful time doing their Muay Pie thing at Nakapan's place, having a wonderful time enjoying all the theater activities at the Howard Theater and the Lincoln Theater. We want to see a vibrant area in this entertainment district. We want people to feel welcomed no matter where they're coming from in the United States or abroad. But we got to make sure that the things that people want, that they are getting them, and that their needs are being met if that's why you chose to open the business up. But we also want to, as the as public safety guardians, we want to make sure that that people are safe, their cars are not being broken into, they're not having outside sales of liquor on the street. That is unacceptable. We want to make sure that they can party in a venue that is designated for their partying opportunities. We want to keep people in the neighborhood having a way so they can park in their neighborhoods. That's the reason why I suggested all these businesses should get together and get a developed parking garage with these empty spaces so that, guess what, people have a place to park once they visit your locations. We need to address the root causes of all these issues and have a location for our young people to go to too. So we have to we have to get a holistic point of view on how we're looking at things. We have to understand that we're going to have a lot of cultural activities involved in the enjoyment of our city, but we have to work together on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I think that's important. I think you're right about, you know, there's a lot of structural things that need to be addressed, and it's going to take a lot of work to add the things that we need to make all these situations better. But hopefully we can advocate for some things on the committee with respect to, some of the easier things like parking enforcement. I'm hopeful that we can make some progress on the crossing guards and things like that, as well as for advocating for more spaces for youth. And, I don't know if we'll see immediate improvement, but I think we can see some immediate improvements, and I think that we can push things in the right direction, hopefully. All right. Well, it is almost 9 o'clock, so I want to let folks go. I know, Karen, you mentioned that the next 3D CAC meeting is on September 26th, and Judge Janine Pirro will be there, U.S. Attorney Pirro. Thank you so much for doing the outreach so that she can come to that. I think everybody really appreciates having the opportunity to interface with her directly through the 3D CAC. So that's amazing to hear that that's going to happen.
Yes, we have that organized just like we had the U.S. Attorney last time. I
Yep.
invite all of you all to come, and we're always trying to make sure that you all can speak to MPD, you can speak to these elected officials, you can always have a chance to sit down on a bigger I mean, because the third district, we house over 180,000 people, and we hear the various voices come in, but we invite you all as leaders to come in to represent your community, to ask those direct questions. And we want to hear you all come to the table. Jean's been, she's expressed herself there. You expressed yourself there. I'm looking forward to seeing Claire and Knock Upon us come there. Look, hey, Knock Upon, come on, dude. I'm looking forward to seeing you come back there. And I want everyone to feel safe, knowing that we know that the trust is being tested with the Metropolitan Police Department, but we want to keep conversations and communications going on so that, guess what? If you feel uncomfortable, you see something, you say something, and we are all part of this discussion together. Thank you so much, Francois, for noting that.
Of course, of course. Um, Great. Well, I will actually be in town for this one, which is great. So I will see you there. Um, Last note, knock upon. I reached out, but we spoke with Chris Dyer from DPR in terms of partnering with them. Like Karen was mentioning, like we heard from him, sounds like Banneker, they're not doing a lot of youth activities, unfortunately. So let's offline, but there is a partnership application you can fill out online with DPR, and I think it would be worth filling that out. And then maybe we can even try to have a meeting with Chris Dyer since we kind of have a direct line, and we can try to make something happen still, maybe at another rec center.
For sure. You're also talking about Brandon working together to try to get that late night hype. I've been interested in jumping
Yeah,
in on that too and try to figure out, what we can do to help the
that'd be
program.
great. Yeah, yeah,
Being
I'll
the
definitely.
fair, I'm looking forward to making sure that we get this. And Knock Upon, let me know, and with my other hat, what it is that we can do to support you and give you any type of any type of support credentially wise. Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, I echo your concerns about having something for the youth, and we're working on that. Unfortunately, we also got some issues with staffing, but we're working on that. And as we continue to build up our bench there, we'll be able to do more. So we're looking forward to that.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for your hard work, guys. Have a great night.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:57 p.m.
Good night, and thank you as always, Francois, for doing an excellent job. Thank
Good
you.
man. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Talk to you later.